For more than 30 years, Azerbaijan and Armenia were at odds over the control of the Karabakh region. But that changed back in September when Baku launched an anti-terrorism operation that ended the Armenian occupation in the territory. Now the two countries are holding talks to sign a peace treaty. But will that be enough to resolve all issues? I'll break it all down here on Straight Talk. Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. Clashes, disputes and complex geopolitics were the themes for the South Caucasus this past year, with many third-party players involved in trying to subdue tensions between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Will peace reach the region in 2024? Nili Kostat reports.
The South Caucasus, a region often threatened by sporadic outbreaks of violence, saw additional challenges in 2023. Tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan have been long simmering ever since Azerbaijan's decisive victory over the occupied Nagorno-Karabakh region during a 40-day war in 2020. This saw Baku capturing occupied territories from Armenia. In September, Azerbaijan declared a large-scale military offensive and eventually claimed a significant victory over Armenian separatists in Karabakh. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was first to congratulate the country and visit the western exclave Nakhchivan.
It is a matter of pride that the operation was successfully completed in a short period of time, with utmost sensitivity to the rights of civilians.
2023 proved to be an important year for Turkey-Azerbaijan relations. In October, both countries signed a string of deals on security, transport, and energy, including the construction of an 85-kilometer Iğder-Nakhchivan natural gas pipeline project, strategically nestled between Armenia and Iran. This year also saw deep cracks in long-running partnerships in the South Caucasus. Armenia refused to host drills by CSTO, a former Soviet security group, and instead opted to hold drills with the US, a demonstration of retaliation as it said Russia failed to support it during the war. In November, France inserted itself in the conflict by delivering military vehicles to Yerevan as it showed signs of stepping up its political and military cooperation with the country. A move many say will only further destabilize the region. But Russia's Vladimir Putin says it wants to broker a peace deal between Baku and Yerevan if done in goodwill. In the past, Turkey has also advocated for normalization of relations, stating that it will normalize ties with Yerevan too if an agreement is reached. But a clear path towards a peace deal hasn't yet materialized. Above all, 2023 highlighted the region's geopolitical importance. Ever since Russia's attack on Ukraine, Western nations have been eyeing the Caucasus and Central Asia to tap into its energy resources. In September, US President Joe Biden engaged with Central Asian leaders under the C5+1 dialogue on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly.
I think this is a historic moment. Building on years of close cooperation between Central Asia and the United States.
The meeting made countries like China, Russia, and Iran worried as they watched from afar. So with all this dynamic regional change in 2023, will the South Caucasus achieve sustainable peace in the year ahead? Or is it poised to become yet another hotspot between Eastern and Western players? Nili Kostat, TRT World.
And now, Hikmet Hajiyev, foreign policy advisor to the president of Azerbaijan, joins me from Baku to talk about the prospects for a lasting peace in the region. Mr. Hajiyev, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Could you talk to us about the latest meeting between Azerbaijan's president and Armenian prime minister in Russia? I mean, is really a peace deal imminent now?
Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you. Indeed, on the margins of the Commonwealth of Independent States informal summit in St. Petersburg, there was an opportunity on the margins for the informal talks or informal discussions between the President of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev, and the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. And from our side, it has been assessed as a fruitful and constructive engagement to advance the peace agenda between the two countries. From Azerbaijani side, there is a stronger determination to advance our peace agenda, in a sense to finalize peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and also normalize the relation between two countries. And from Azerbaijan's perspective, we don't see any further major obstacles for completion of the peace treaty between two countries.
So when are you and your country planning to announce the outcome, and how will this process proceed?
Well, it's a little bit difficult to put concrete timelines, and further negotiations are still required between Armenia and Azerbaijan to finalize the process, and also text-wise as a peace treaty. And we are in the process of exchanging the draft of a peace agreement. We do regret that at one point there was a certain delay from Armenian side. Nevertheless, Azerbaijan provided its own version of the peace treaty in September, but it took more than 70 days Armenia to respond to our remarks. But from Azerbaijan side, we didn't delay the process and immediately reviewed the proposals and text-wise proposals and amendments of Armenian side and provided our comments on the 21st of December. We are waiting for the new remarks and new version from Armenian side, and based on that to continue our discussions and negotiations.
So Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov has recently said a bilateral peace agreement wouldn't mean a full solution to everything. What did he mean by that?
Peace treaty is an important document, and it will change the entire atmosphere in our region, and it will also change the entire landscape of interaction between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But in the meantime, we should agree to understand that peace treaty is not a magic stick. It cannot change everything at the same time. In a sense, it will require further actions from both sides to have a full implementation of peace treaty. In the meantime, confidence building measures, ethnic reconciliation, post-conflict ethnic reconciliation, and also coming to the complete normalization between two countries, it will require a lot of efforts from both sides. That was a major message of the foreign minister from Azerbaijan side. But important thing is that the peace treaty that it will take out element of the military confrontation, element of the war and atrocity between two countries, and it will have a positive transformative effect for the region of the entire Caucasus, and particularly Armenia-Azerbaijan interstate relationship.
So, Mr. Hajiyev, speaking of confidence-building measures, what's your government's take on Armenia's recent engagement with Western powers like the US and France, because it received batches of military equipment from the latter one? Could such moves destabilize the region?
Indeed, Azerbaijan's views that Armenia doesn't need a militarization agenda. Armenia needs a positive agenda, and also regional engagement and bilateral engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan should be supported. On this stage, I would like also to highlight that Azerbaijan supports Baku-Yerevan direct negotiations and direct talks, and we also see the great value of that. 7th of December joint statement between the presidential administration and Prime Minister Armenia's Prime Minister's office joint statement once again demonstrated that if two sides are working together and based on the understanding and mutual confidence, we can proceed and advance our regional peace agenda. For the first time, it was a historic document in a sense that two countries agreed on a joint statement at the high-level government institutional level. But of course, such an weaponization program, particularly from the France, is not helpful. It's counterproductive and bring the region to yet another unpredicted developments. And again, other partners should also support the regional peace agenda.
So your government has just recently ordered two French diplomats to leave the country. Could you elaborate on that? I mean, why has France been inserting itself in the conflict?
Really, we have a difficulty to understand what are the end goals of the French government in the region of the South Caucasus. And what we said that other countries shouldn't export their geopolitical intrigues and their own internal political agendas to the region of the South Caucasus, and also militarization program of Armenia, and also contributing to the feeling of the revanchism in Armenia are not helpful, but unfortunately we see in the actions of France and France is also unnecessarily and quite in a counterproductive manner conducts diplomatic wars against the Republic of Azerbaijan. And two French diplomats, and as it was stated by the Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan, has been declared persona non grata because they have been engaged in the actions contrary to the value and spirit and letter of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations between two countries.
So, Mr. Hajiyev, what's your country's and Baku's position on third countries' involvement in this process? I'm talking about the United States, as we've just mentioned, France, and we also have Russia and Turkey.
Azerbaijan's approach is that we have always said that peace, first of all, lies and should lie between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and Baku and Yerevan through our joint efforts, and we should conclude in a peace arrangement between two countries. Again, it's our own responsibility, and in a positive manner, we should also astonish the world. I think that 7th of December joint statement, it was important milestone development in this regard. And then in the meantime, we see regional countries' active engagement. Turkey, Azerbaijan cooperation and partnership and brotherhood is something special. Turkey, in the meantime, is a regional country, and Turkey actively supports regional peace agenda. And in the meantime, what Azerbaijan suggests is about a 3+3 format and seeing active regional engagement of all countries and buildings in a peace and cooperation and partnership within our region. Of course, Azerbaijan doesn't exclude on other platforms with regard to Armenia-Azerbaijan engagement, but here I think that we are not any longer thinking or looking at the mediation. We are more thinking about the good offices, and good offices, it doesn't matter where it takes place. Important thing is that they should be result-oriented and target-oriented. And from that perspective, Azerbaijan again supports active direct engagement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. We already have one success story.
So do you expect a full normalization between Ankara and Yerevan after your country signs a peace treaty with Armenia?
Turkey has always demonstrated its positive engagement with the region of the South Caucasus, and that Turkey also supports Azerbaijan-Armenia normalization process. But in the meantime, Armenia should also change its policy with regard to the regional countries and also with regard to Turkey. And Armenia finally should also put all of its claims with regard to the regional countries. Therefore, what's Azerbaijan's approach is that along with Turkey and with our partners and brothers from the Turkish Foreign Ministry and appropriate institutions, we all said that in a synchronized manner, in a parallel manner, Azerbaijan and Turkey support within a full normalization process. And here it's a win-win situation, and it's also in the best interest of the Republic of Armenia. I think that sooner Armenia also understands what's reality, that will be in the benefit of everybody.
So another pressing issue is the Zanzagor corridor for Armenia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Iran. What's the latest on that? I mean, what are the main challenges, and why does Armenia doesn't want to join this project?
Well, for us, it's also a really big question about why Armenia didn't provide any good conditions for implementation of this project for the last 3 years. We have exerted a lot of efforts for discussing all modalities of opening the Zengezur corridor, because it was also a commitment of Armenian side under the trilateral statement 2020, 10th of November, providing access from the western regions of Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan region of Azerbaijan. And we also know that Nakhchivan continues to live under the blockade because Nakhchivan doesn't have any direct connection with the Azerbaijan proper. And Azerbaijan expects that facilitated approach and facilitated modalities should be provided for the cargo and passenger traffic, unhindered cargo and passenger traffic. Therefore, but we haven't seen certain reciprocity from Armenian side. We also think that it's also in the interest of Armenian side to change her policy, to change her standing in the region as a transit country. Therefore, not waiting for the whims or further thinking of Armenian side, Azerbaijan has already started building alternative route to Nakhchivan through the territory of Iran. We already started with cooperation and discussion. Therefore, it's up to Armenia. And Armenia, if Armenia sees herself as a regional transit country, then Armenia should also provide attractive modalities for cargo passages and also security mechanisms, how it's going to be handled.
All right, Mr. Hajiyev, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk. Appreciate it a lot.
It's highly appreciated. Thank you.
And to further discuss the changes in South Caucasus power balance in 2023, joining me now from Istanbul is Matthew Bryza. He's a former U.S. ambassador. And from Baku, Farid Shafiyev. He is the chairperson at the Center of Analysis of International Relations. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining me on Straight Talk. So, Farid, what do you make of the stepped-up efforts by Azerbaijan and Armenia to agree on a peace deal?
Yeah, let me remind that it was Azerbaijan initiative to forward the peace plan based on 5 principles, evolving around the principle of mutual recognition of territorial integrity. Now, by the end 2023, after several rounds of negotiations, exchanges of draft text, indeed both sides are very close to come to agreement. There are few, let's say, the moments, articles in the draft which should be agreed upon. And I think the chances for the final agreement is pretty high. The problem that the format of negotiations, the place, and Azerbaijan suggests that we meet at the border without any mediators, because the attempts by either Western powers or Russia to monopolize or to control the negotiation process so far has had not positive result. So that's why Azerbaijan advised or proposed to meet without any mediators. So we're waiting for response from the Armenian side.
So, Matthew, what do you think? I mean, how is this different from the previous attempts?
It's totally different from my perspective. I've had the pleasure and honor to work on this conflict since 2001, so 22 years, and never before did I ever say that a peace treaty is within sight and is even likely. I believe it's likely, and based on the principles that Ambassador Shafiyev said that Azerbaijan had put forward, they seem to be accepted by Prime Minister Pashinyan of Armenia. And the key to all of this was on September 19th, Azerbaijan conducted a limited and extremely successful operation to basically defeat the Armenian troops that were still on the territory of Azerbaijan and Karabakh illegally, as well as to dismantle the separatist, extreme ethnic Armenian nationalist regime also on the territory of Azerbaijan and Karabakh. Those two factors, the illegal troops and that separatist regime, also illegal, were the last major obstacle on the road to a peace treaty that clearly President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan both want. So I'm actually really optimistic for the first time ever.
So, Farid, Russia says it is ready to help Baku and Yerevan to reach a peace deal. What could you tell us about Russia's position here? I mean, what's at stake for Moscow to have these two former Soviet states resettle their relations?
Definitely, Russia has strong influence in the South Caucasus. Especially, we have to take into account that formerly Armenia and Russia are military allies and economic allies. Actually, not only formally, but there is the content of their cooperation. Yes, we also observe that in recent year there is some discontent from Armenia towards the Russian expectations towards Russia, that Russia somehow should have engaged, invaded Azerbaijan and fight on the side of Armenia. I think that expectation was not realistic. Russia also proposed a peace treaty in 2022 in summer, but their proposal was about to postpone the resolution of Karabakh problem, which was not accepted by Azerbaijan. So despite the relationship between both countries, Azerbaijan and Armenia, I don't think Russia is going to play a further role as a mediator in terms of the peace treaty.
So, Matthew, what are the main differences between the U.S., the European Union, Russia, and Turkey's approach to the negotiations between those two states? I mean, is there a power struggle, let's say, between the East and the West over maintaining influence in the region?
But that power struggle doesn't involve the United States or the European Union. I mean, both of those entities have been performing or have throughout 2023 through the summer, I think, a neutral mediating role. The problem was that France had clearly chosen the Armenian side. In the meantime, with the United States and the European Union playing this, from my perspective, constructive role, I think Russia and President Putin were worried that Russia was being marginalized. So from Russia's perspective, it still wanted to have a mediating role. Turkey wants to have a mediating role as well, but that's just unacceptable to the Armenian side. So I think Turkey is looking for ways to contribute to a lasting peace, not only through its modest presence of peacekeepers in the Agdam region of Azerbaijan, but also by allowing for or enabling large-scale investments as Azerbaijan rebuilds this massive amount of territory that was utterly destroyed and is now attracting the former residents of the Azerbaijani residents to those regions that Azerbaijan is rebuilding. And hopefully Armenians will be coming back also.
So, Farid, there are also several projects to restore and revive rail connections among regional countries as well as Azerbaijan and Armenia. How has Azerbaijan's decisive victory over the war changed the power balance as well as the geopolitics of railways in the South Caucasus?
You know, we're looking at all these transregional projects, not in terms of the geopolitics, but in terms of the mutually beneficial economic projects. We already implemented with Georgia and with Turkey several important energy projects and railway project, Baku-Tbilisi cars. Those projects, energy projects, was supported by United States, European Union. Railway project, unfortunately, didn't get support from EU. It was funded by Azerbaijan. Now we're approaching with the same attitude towards the possible cooperation, future cooperation with Armenia, that those projects will be beneficial. Unfortunately, since 2020, we've been discussing with Armenian side about the rail links, so-called Zangezur corridor. Yes. Or let's say passage, because Armenians are not comfortable with the word corridor. Azerbaijan wants to get its passage to Nakhchivan, its exclave. But, you know, Armenia has not responded positively, though recently Armenia put forward another initiative called Crossroad for Peace. But the problem with all these projects, I mean, from the Armenian side, is that they lack content, they lack practical steps. Now, 3 years passed, Azerbaijan opted to build bypass through Iran. And, you know, I think if Armenia continue with such attitude, it might, you know, stay isolated further.
So, Matthew, on the other hand, the 85-kilometer Iğdır-Nakhchivan natural gas pipeline project between Turkey and Azerbaijan has been launched. Could you talk to us about the importance of this project and what kind of advantages will it bring in terms of energy security and Nakhchivan's dependence on Iran?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, from a geostrategic perspective, that spur pipeline doesn't have a huge impact on the region generally, but it does have a great impact on the prospects of Nakhchivan's economic development. As you, Aisha, as you were suggesting, yeah, energy flows into Nakhchivan now come via Iran, largely. But this will allow not only natural gas as a source of heating water and homes and maybe generating electricity, but also as a potential feedstock for petrochemicals or fertilizers or textiles. And something I've been exploring for a long time with my think tank partners in Washington, D.C., is the possibility of creating an organized industrial zone in Nakhchivan that's also on the territory of Armenia and the territory of Turkey, because all three countries come together in the Nakhchivan region. And that could be a way to generate economic growth, jobs, prosperity as well for an impoverished region of Armenia and for underdeveloped Nakhchivan, as well as Eastern Turkey, which needs some economic development as well. So that pipeline spur could help enable that sort of an investment project.
So, Farid, you've briefly mentioned, but Turkey and Azerbaijan want to open the Zangezur corridor. We know why it's important, but how will it change if opened, the future of the region, and why does really Armenia oppose to it?
The region, the potential for Zangezur corridor is really huge. It's not only about links between Azerbaijan or exclave of Nakhchivan, or even, let's say, Turkey. Through Nakhchivan-Julfa city, it can be connected to Iran. Armenia can be connected to Russia and Iran. So it creates kind of, indeed, crossroad for many countries to be connected.
So, Matthew, a very quick question. What does 2024 hold for the region's stability and interconnectivity?
I think both of those things, stability, interconnectivity, and most importantly, peace. As long as Prime Minister Pashinyan in Armenia is in place and is not somehow ousted or undermined by the component of Armenian politics that favors continued conflict. Just like to say, there was a great conference that Farid's Institute, together with ADA University, organized a month or so ago. President Aliyev spent 3 hours at it talking to us all. And he made a very powerful statement saying the rest of his life's professional work is going to be to rebuild the territories, to attract people back in peace.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Aisha Subarkash. If you've got any comments, please share them with us on X at Straight Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.